Good evening. Tonight, we're doing some dailies with Astrologian. Which is certainly, in my opinion, the hardest healer to play. An important aspect of Astrologian is that while you may see guides that say exactly what you're supposed to do, like the optimal thing, can actually be nearly impossible for a human to perform at times. I just want to start with that. The particular case that I want to bring up before we get too deep into the stream is, if you've ever seen the card burst, is what I call it. The more commonly known name is the super dump. Feel like that sounds it's not a great name for a signature move, is it? The card burst, as I choose to call it, is the act of playing. So you use light speed. Yeah, exactly, Ryan's got it. You use light speed such that you can play 3 cards: Astrodyne, Divination, Minor Arcana, and possibly Lord of Crowns in, 15 seconds. Approximately. You want to drop it all at once. And the only way to do that is you need light speed, because you need to double weave many of these things. Now, optimally, the way this goes is that you start the fight with draw, then you go light speed, play, draw, divination, play, minor arcana, play, and you're done, right? Well, of course, there's an Astrodyne in there somewhere, but the idea is that you just, go play, play really quickly. But in practice, what's going to happen, if you play one, and you play another one, and then the third card is probably not going to be the third type, right? It's we got the solar and the lunar. Wait, the solar and the what? The solar and the celestial. Third one is probably not going to be lunar. On average, it's not going to be. There's a third chance that it's going to be. I'm just going to do it here to demonstrate. We didn't actually get the signs because I'm not even in combat. Nope, see, so there's celestial. We do this, now it's lunar. But that extended the combo. Technically, that is not optimal, but that's how the job works. And sometimes you will have to redraw 2 of your cards in the middle of your combo. And this can actually lead to situations throughout a fight, it can happen that the way your rotation ends up landing is that your perfect double weave is you draw a card, and then, you did play and draw, and then your next GCD, where you have a double weave, you need to redraw and play. Now, if you know how to play Astrologian, you might already realize why that is a problem. So, if you're in an 8-man team, on average, 2 of your DPS players are going to be melee, and 2 of them are going to be ranged. On average. On average, that's how it's going to go down. If you use draw... Well, if you use draw and you find the wrong card, you can redraw, and then you have until your next GCD cast is finished, until you actually have to know who to play the card on. But if you are in the situation that you have to redraw and play, you have the animation lock of redraw itself to actually figure out who you're playing on. If I'm here, right, I'm in this position, it goes like this. You have about half a second. Actually, I messed that one up. I was supposed to do it like this. That's how quickly you need to know it. And let's be honest, most players are going to drop that card on the wrong player. That card is going to land on a DPS probably, but you probably just decided that I don't know what this card is going to be, I'm just going to give the samurai the card, or something like that. That is the only way that's going to work. The alternative is, you know, delaying. I saw, I believe, Gazel suggest yesterday, or was it the day before, that they will just skip the play, like weave something else if they have to redraw first, because otherwise it's not going to be perfect. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And now that I've gone over that, hey Ymir, hey Jacob, hey Orion, hey Tilano, hey Kasari, hey Kitsuneko, and hey Tristan the Bard, and hey Angel, I hope you're all doing very well. Kasari is lurking, that's fine. Jacob says, generally you're aiming for 3 different sigils, but you're happy with all the same just for MP. I've gotten pretty decent at double weaving during the open at least. Now, the thing is, yes, you will be fine with just the MP, but if you use redraw correctly, you have a 100% chance of getting 2 signs, so you're actually not satisfied with just the MP. Like, if you mess it up, sure, you can settle, like you already made a mistake. It's better to use Astrodyne and get the MP than not using it. But you actually have a 100% chance of getting at least 2 different signs if you make use of redraw, which means that you should 100% of the time get the cast speed reduction, the diet presence of mind, you could say. While we're on the subject, the chance of getting the 3rd sign when you draw is 1 in 3, and when you redraw, there's a 50% chance that you actually get the correct sign. So by that extension, there's a 2 in 3 chance that you're going to get the 3rd sign correctly as well. Now, the reason for this is that redraw will never give you the same sign as the one you already have. It's not the same card, it is the same sign that it will avoid. This was added in a patch during Endwalker, for those that feel like, now that sounds wrong. There is a 100% chance if you have a solar sign that you will get a not solar sign. So, yes, you should use Astrodyne every time it's available. You should never skip a card because it has the wrong sign. That is never a good idea. But you should never get less than 2 signs if you're playing correctly. Jacob says macros can help. I made some that swap my hotbars and new macros that pick which party member I want to target. Yeah, so it depends on what you need. That's really what it depends on what you need. If you're really fast on the buttons, then it makes no difference whether you have like a list of 8 macros or you can just click the target. Some use, I'm pretty sure some use a mouse over macro for their play and things like that. Also, hey me, who else? I hope you're doing well. My point was that Astrologian's opener is really mean because it's not very predictable, especially if you have if you're trying to optimize who you're playing the cards on, because, well, I can just see if I can find my chart. Yes, I can. Just a moment. Right, so we have this, and we have this. So, these are basically the 2 openers, right? So the 2 possible openers if you're trying to do it perfectly. So, before the fight starts, you draw, you look at your card and go, I don't want that card, if you don't want that card, and you redraw. Or you don't redraw because you have the card you want. If you have no signs, usually the situation is, do you have a melee card? No, then redraw, because melee DPS tend to be able to do more with the card. There are exceptions, but you would want to start with a melee card in most groups, I'm pretty sure. Then you play Earthly. You place down Earthly Star when it's close enough to pull. And then pull starts. You precast Fall Malefic. You weave Lightspeed. You also do that over here. You may notice that this is a little smaller because there's more. Then you combust, you play a card, and this is safe. You are going to play that card because you already chose it. You already decided you liked that card. But then you draw a new card. And then you cast Fall Malefic, which is instant. You had from this draw to this play something like 1.2 seconds. Something around that range, maybe 1.5 depending on your latency. So a 1.5 second, we can say, from drawing this card to deciding who you're playing it on. Or if you're playing it in the first place. Like, because the alternative is that you draw the incorrect card, you got it the wrong sign, in which case you have to redraw. So from here to here, you have about 1.5 seconds to decide, what are you going to do with this card? And it's either play, and then you're still in the lucky opener, or you redraw, and then you're suddenly in the unlucky opener. If you're in the lucky opener, you're playing, you're drawing again. Easy mode. If you're in the unlucky opener, you redraw and you play, which is still not bad, but you can see where the problem lies here, right? Because you redraw here, and you have half a second to decide who you're playing on. If you want to keep up pace with your group, right? And that's how quickly it goes wrong. And you can see that the difference between the lucky opener and the unlucky opener is really just 2 redraws. So by the end of it, this is Crown play, that doesn't exist anymore, but it's technically Minor Arcana play, is 1 GCD. It's just 1 GCD of difference. It's not a big deal, but the problem is those 2 redraw plays. That's not very cool. It's not very fun. Nice, Sharo. Oh, I am here in the shadows. Yeah, it's not easy to play Astrologian because you have so little time to think in between your moves when you're doing the card burst. And this is further compounded by the fact that, so in a real fight, things are going to go wrong, but in the perfect world, what's going to happen is that where your Astrodyne is in your bursts every 2 minutes is going to like drift a little bit. In the opener, it's going to be play, 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 Astrodyne. In the 2-minute burst, it's going to be play, play, Astrodyne, play. In the 4-minute burst, it's going to be play, Astrodyne, play, play. In the 6-minute burst, it's going to be Astrodyne, play, 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 wait, and then Astrodyne, back to back. Optimally, if you're playing perfectly, but that assumes there is no downtime, you make no mistakes, not a single one, in the entire fight, which can last over 6 minutes, easily. But yeah, that is just to like paint a picture of how difficult Astrologian can be. And I'm leading with this in this stream because some people might watch the Astrologian guides and then feel like watching the stream after as a VOD in the future. And then it might be useful that this kind of like more hand-wavy information that is not going to be very well detailed in the actual guide in the same way is actually addressed first, right? Oh, that's Shay. But yeah. Also, the reason why we were listening to Eurovision is because Astrologian has some connection to the deities in the game. So I felt that it made sense to use that music. And I see we already have people here. Yeah, we're going to roulettes, as we do. And we will start with expert roulette. So that of course means that that anyone that wants to come along needs to have that. Thank you, Jacob. And enjoy your replees. Oh, I didn't even notice Orion. Yeah, we have a lot of fun things built in the house. I can't remember if I mentioned it on stream, but I actually got the green screen to work. It's not great, but it works. I also put a little video that showed that it worked. Wow. But in that case, Milo, you have done a lot of roulettes. I saw you had some level 90 jobs. Yeah, we will, as is tradition, we will go down the list, we will skip these. But otherwise we will do all the things. Right, so expert roulette time. Now you just watch me mess it all up. Most of my experiences with playing Astrologian has almost always been first pull. I have to remember how I even play the job, because I actually don't play Astrologian like extremely much myself. But I know what you're supposed to do. The difficult part is actually doing it, right? Oh yeah, absolutely, Jacob. The thing is that what can make Astrologian really, really confusing for a new player when healing a tank in a dungeon is that you have a lot of AoE healing options. Like, a ridiculous amount of AoE healing options. But most of them are actually really, really good at healing just a tank. Like, you can get a lot of value out of using all of your AoE tools on just the tank. Neutral sect is funny. The sad part is that neutral sect is only really good before the pull starts, because it doesn't actually do anything on non-spell healing. Like, none at all. It has no effect on your abilities, because the healing potency is magic specifically, and abilities are not actually magic. Yeah, I know. Essential Dignity looks like magic, and Earthly Star looks like magic, but it's not magic. It's not magic. Grr. Angry, silly, incorrectly written tooltip on collective unconscious. And this is going well. Let's see. The small ones explode first, as you know. Whoops. No one saw that. I'm just going to not play all of my cards right now, because the fight is practically over. But that was nice. It's okay, Ravio. I fixed it. I fixed it. I fixed it with essential dignity. It's essential. It was a case of drop being a damage dealer. You need to heal the tank right there. There's a lot of things. You know, a really interesting aspect of this dungeon is that, so normally, if you see two mobs next to each other like this as a healer, you will feel totally safe casting gravity. But for some reason, those ham crystals, for instance, they just don't want to stack on top of each other. And they're so big that gravity can't even hit both of them if they're not, like, actually overlapping in some way. So, like, in that situation, Fall Malefic was better, because the two mobs weren't actually close enough to be hit. by your AoE, even though there's two mobs. It's really weird. All the cards. Oh, right. The lightning Thor. And a new card. For a second there I thought that was my MP. Like, wait a minute. I just used Lucid Dreaming. Where did it go? And once again, there's not really any reason to play all the cards and use Divination, because the boss is already dead. But can get my Minor Arcana. Enjoy your candy, Coco. Are you serious? How are you able to do this so well, Shade? You keep managing to just barely stand outside of my Helios casts. Like, I don't know how you do it. It's actually, at this point, impressive. It's not anything you're doing wrong, I should mention. It's not. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. I'm just impressed that you can do that. Like, incredibly so. Let's just use Macrocosmos so it doesn't go to waste. It might actually go to waste with all this trap healing that I'm sitting around. Probably as good as it could get when I went into the fight with only 2 cards. Oh, we're on the wrong side. Draw! It is actually a really mean boss when you get to this for the first time, because like there's a lot of things to look for, but they like it's all smoke and mirrors. Like all of those tentacles are used to like just indicate there's only one safe spot. Which can be very confusing if you don't know that. You don't know what you're supposed to look for. And then there's also this part where there's tentacles up as if something is going to happen, but there is nothing happening. And those sharps coming up does not actually indicate that you have to do anything necessarily. We do have to do something in this case, but oh boy. The correct answer had 2 different options. We didn't have to run all that way. I could have done that differently and it would have been better. Oh well. That is fine. Nice. I wasn't actually sure that was safe for me to stand there. I could just a foot into the telegraph, no problem, no big deal. I could stand here. Right, there's not going to be another divination, so we just use the remaining cooldowns that we have. Nice. And we had the limit break too. Very good. Esther Soup says, the first time I went into this dungeon, Breathstroke wiped my party so many times. Oh wow. I think the first time I went, so the first time that I actually went into this dungeon I did on stream on release day. I don't believe we wiped, but I remember that I got hit by basically every single mechanic and somehow lived because tank overpowered, right? I'm pretty sure I went in as tank, I'm pretty sure I went in as paladin. And also Esther Soup, is that does that give you extra max HP? Like, would that give you extra max HP, or does that like just is that just gives you a lot of uses? And Nick Van Dam asks, honest opinion, easiest healer and tank for starting the support role. So, the answer to this is spread over a couple of videos. So I have a video on easy jobs to play, so in general, that one is intended for like doing dungeons at max level, for example. They're not exactly intended for like what should a new player pick up. But that one recommends Sage, which is considered easy once you understand it. It's a problem with some of the jobs that have a really steep pickup learning curve, like Red Mage, Sage, and Scholar really. Also Astrologian in some capacity, is that they're not that hard. Honestly, it's just that, well, Astrologian is a lot harder, but just the entry level of even understanding what you're supposed to be doing is really, really evil because there's so much to learn. But I actually have a guide on that ranks all of the starter jobs available to a new player based on their difficulty and explains some of the basics. That one might be better if you're looking for advice as a new player. If you want to know what the easiest healer and tank is for getting into the roles right now, I hope Nick Van Damme is still here, then my advice is for tank, Orion, I don't think you can post links in the chat. I believe there is a filter for that, because otherwise bots come in and spam with links. We don't want that, unfortunately. I can post links in the chat. So, if you want to pick up, yeah, sorry Orion, it's like safety precaution. If you tell me which videos you were trying to, like, you can write the name of the video, and then I can post a link to it, for example. But I still appreciate that you tried. My advice would be, if you're trying to pick up the roles, if you have everything already at level 90, then Warrior is by far the easiest tank to pick up, like as like a beginner tank. Like if it's already level 90. If it's below level 70, then Warrior and Paladin each have different advantages and disadvantages. Below level 70, Warrior's rotation, when played properly, is more involved, because you want to like stockpile resources and spend them, whereas the Paladin is lacking in defensive tools. It doesn't really have any healing outside of Clemency. You don't really want to use Clemency if you can get away with not using Clemency, so it gets awkward there. But the attack rotation is easy. But once you get past level 70, Warrior's attack rotation becomes really easy as well. So that means that the disadvantage that the Warrior has disappears, and Paladin needs like another 14 levels before they start to get healing on their attacks. But by that point, Warrior's already easiest. For healing, if you're new to the role, you want to learn the role, I recommend White Mage. Easiest way to get acquainted with how healing works. The reason why it's important that you do it with White Mage is because with Sage and Scholar, while they have a toolkit that can be a little confusing, and in Sage's case it's actually really approachable, because once you understand what the buttons do, it is not that complicated. But the thing that White Mage has over Sage and Scholar is that there is no passive healing that like happens without your knowledge. Like Scholar has a pet that heals for you. Sage does a lot of healing from Cardia. With White Mage, you will have to learn how much your healing buttons do, which is important, because if you don't understand how much your healing buttons do, then you don't know how much healing you need to do. And if you don't know how much healing you need to do, then you don't feel safe if the tank drops below like 70% HP, because you don't know if that's dangerous, because you don't know how much you can heal. Like, you don't actually know how much is a lot of healing if you don't like get acquainted with it. And I think the easiest way to get acquainted with it is White Mage. Astrologian can do that too, but Astrologian will distract you from actually looking at the HP bars all the time by going, oh, by the way, there's a card. Oh, by the way, there's this thing, you put like healing in the future and all that. Like, White Mage is all about healing and attacking, but all about healing. Like, its defensive toolkit is basically just upfront healing for the most part. So it's really the simplest healer to learn. But once you have learned the basics of healing, I recommend also playing Sage. Like, Sage is also very easy once you understand it. The key thing is once you understand it, like some jobs have, you know, like a let me see if I can do this with the mirror situation here. So some jobs have like a learning curve, like where it goes like this, like it gets a little harder to get better at it, right? And a job like Sage is like, it has like this wall here, and then it drops down once you actually understand where, like, how many of its basic toolkits work. So that's why I wouldn't recommend Sage as your first healer. But yeah, if you have all jobs at level 90, I don't know how you manage that without playing them. But that is not something I need to know. But my recommendation, or level them to level 90 and not being sure what to do with them. But there can be many reasons for that. So that's not important. What is important is I would recommend Warrior to like get acquainted with tanking better. And I would recommend White Mage for getting acquainted with healing better. And once you are acquainted with them, I would say you could expand to like Sage for healing and, well, any tank you like, really. Paladin is really easy as well. Gunbreaker and Dark Knight have slightly more aggressive toolkits that might make it a little bit more difficult. Let's see, Ryan said it was the 2 you mentioned, the 5 easy jobs to play when you don't want to think too hard, and how to choose your... Oh, you literally found the jobs, or the guides that I stated. How about I grab those to post. Is that one? And... YouTube work with me here. There you go. Of course, if you have them already at level 90, it might not be as helpful, the second one. But they do talk about, those guides do talk about, that guide does also bring up what... Here. It also brings up, like, do the things become harder as you level up? Anyway, we are doing level 90 dungeon next. Are we still good with this group? And Coco said, why does Astrologian have a kissing ability? What do you mean? Oh, the Sinistry one. Is that the one you're thinking of? Now kiss ability. I think that is Sinistry. It is easy to miss because it's rarely used. It is one of the weirdest abilities in the game. All the buttons. The super prep. I know the mobs were almost dead, but by the way, Shade, here's a little tip. If most ranged, at least a significant amount of ranged jobs, are actually not capable of hitting all of the enemies if they're not on the same side of you. So it doesn't actually matter that you, the warrior, can hit everything around you because you can hit in a circle. It would be beneficial for you and your team if you move around to like bunch up all of the enemies on one side of you. Specifically because, for instance, my gravity centers on one mob. You don't have to leave the room. Don't worry, it's not that bad. It's just that you had two mobs on the same on two different sides of you at the end of the last pull. That was what I was referring to. Don't worry, it wasn't that bad. There's just a huge difference between having like most of the mobs like clumped together and having them on two sides of you. Oh yeah, practice. It's okay. Yeah, I talk about this in my 6 tips for tanking video, if you want to hear it in a more detailed version than me just randomly mentioning it. I think that actually a huge majority of that guide is dedicated to just talking about how to position yourself as a tank. Oh boy. This boss is always so awkward with the huge ad phase. We got a few of them, that's nice. Got a bunch of them before they even started attacking. I'm pretty sure the boss will be there in time. Very nice. I think that was really fast. Imagine having light speed. Imagine having light speed. And you! so many enemies specifically wanting to party with me. A new card. You get many bowls. And everyone's good. Look at the floor, and you see the circle markings. What is the safe spot? That was very laggy. Did you see that? I wasn't even in it. I mean, that is an option. Yeah, I don't know how that worked, Megatai. I don't know if you, like, it... Even if my big toe was in it, my toe was really, really, really big. It happens. I think maybe I had a little bit of lag right there. Or the snapshot of the ability is really janky. Because I did wait very long. Yusuf says, I've been away from 14 since 6.0. It's pretty casual, did only MSQ and nothing else. Is the game better for casuals? Is it hard to find a guild? And is the MSQ exciting? I don't know if it's not hard to find a free company. It is not hard to find a free company, but it is certainly hard to find, like, the free company that is right for you. Like, that can be really, really, really hard. But the best you can do is, like, try different ones and don't feel bad about leaving if you find one that isn't for you. Like, don't think that you owe the free company something for letting you join or something like that. Some players do that and stay with a free company they don't actually like for a ridiculous amount of time because they don't, like, they feel bad about leaving. Don't do that. Just, it's best for everyone if you leave a free company you don't like. You know, go shop around. Try some stuff. The worst that can happen is you land somewhere you don't like. Regarding whether it's better for casuals, compared to, like, World of Warcraft, for example, there is a huge amount of content you can do in Final Fantasy XIV without ever setting foot in, like, really hard content. Like, savage content, so to speak, is optional. You can do so much stuff in the game, just casually with, like, roulettes, like, just dailies and stuff like that. So, I would say that it is very good for casuals. And I would say that it wasn't worse for casuals in 6.0. There was maybe a little bit less content to do, depending on how early in 6.0 you left. Find it hard to socialize and find people to be friends with. Well, that one can be hard. I can't really advise. Like, the thing is, I can't really give you advice on where to find a free company for you. The thing is, if you find a free company, like let's say you find a free company by hanging out in Limsa all day, then that free company is going to be the kind of free company that, now you might be shocked to find this or discover this, but that free company is probably going to be standing in Limsa all the time, right? Like, that's what they're going to be doing. That's how you found them. So the best you can do is do the kind of content you enjoy and try and see and figure out where you find the kinds of players that do that content. Like, if you enjoy just playing casually, like casual content, then it might not be a bad place to look for a free company in Limsa, for example. But you should probably not join the first one that gives you an invite, right? You might have to, like, ask a little bit about the free company before joining to figure out, do you actually do other things than stand around in Limsa? But yeah, exactly, as Megatai says, it depends on what kind of casual content you want. If you want a free company that you can just, you know, sit back, relax, and talk with every day, then Limsa might not be the worst place to look. Because they're really good at that. Like, specifically that one is something that, that Limsa does really well. Nightfly asks, what meta tank is on now? All 4 tanks are pretty much equally viable. I believe Warrior is slightly better right now or something like that. Not entirely sure. But all 4 tanks are perfectly viable. So choose the one you like. Just choose the one you like. That's all you need. Yeah, it is really difficult to find the right free company for you. It also depends on, like as I said, it depends on what you expect of your free company. I know some people expect their free company to host events all the time. Now, what that means also depends on who you ask. Because some people, when they say they want events all the time, what they mean is they want, you know, the classic, the free companies that hold club events and stuff like that. Others mean they want, like, treasure maps, they want, like, mount farms, all that stuff. So what you want can be difficult to figure out what free companies can satisfy that. Also, wow. Are you good? Nightflyer says, I mean, for raids. Right? I will check the logs for you. Right now, this instant, At this very moment, Night Flyer, you can see here for Anabazias, Savage, the current Savage raid tier, the best tank for damage is Gunbreaker, and then Warrior. But what you should pay extra close attention to is this part. There are about 40% more Warriors than Gunbreakers. Like 40% more Warrior players. Which means Warriors meta. Dark Knights, there are around 15% less of those than Gunbreakers. And there's around 5-10% less Paladins than Gunbreakers. But Warrior is the meta. There are so many more Warriors that it's actually more likely that there are Savage groups that use double Warrior than any other tank. You wouldn't use double Warrior, but you could. Like, if your group doesn't have anything else, you could do that. It's not optimal, but you could do that. But meta would be Warrior Gunbreaker. But what you should pay extra close attention to is this. You might see this, right, and say, wow, Paladin and Dark Knight are terrible, right? You might see this and go, wow, Paladin and Dark Knight are terrible. Now, the average performance of a Dark Knight is the median 57. The average performance of Paladin is median 57. The average performance of a Warrior is median 59, and Gunbreaker is also 59. Which means that Warriors and Gunbreakers, on average, do around 2 or 3% more DPS than a Paladin or a Dark Knight. 2 or 3%, okay? 2 or 3%. So if you want to play a Warrior, play a Warrior. If you want to play a Dark Knight, play a Dark Knight. All four are viable, and if you attempt to join a raid team as a Dark Knight, and they say, oh, well, we don't actually want a Dark Knight because they're bad, or something ridiculous like that, then the problem is the raid team and not you. So play what you like. Yusuf, you can travel between any world on your in your region, but you can only join a free company that is on your world specifically. So let me just see data centers. Where's Shiva? Is that you? Yep. So Shiva is on EU, so that means you can technically visit any player on Chaos or Light, but you cannot join their free company unless they are specifically on Shiva. And yeah, exactly, Nightflyer. The thing is that players that think, like, if there's a raid team that says that the reason why they aren't getting the clear is because they have a Dark Knight tank, then there's something else wrong. In the current raid tier, the DPS checks are nice enough that any job, any group composition that is just reasonably balanced can do it. Any group composition, as long as you have like 8 different jobs and you have 2 tanks and 2 healers, it should be able to be done. And it does not matter which jobs you have, pretty much. Like, there are very, very, very specific outliers where maybe I would say there's a possibility that the job like the group composition is the problem, but I doubt it. So yeah, play what you like, Nightflyer. Play what you like. It does not matter. All jobs, in fact, are close enough together that it does not matter. Right. The next one is yeah, that is Shadow. The next one we're doing is 50, 60, 70, 80. I would like to check how many people we have in the area that actually really wants to come along for that, and whether we should like rearrange the group. What do you think will be at the event in August? Don't know. Given that we are getting close to 6.5, there's a chance that they're going to show off some of the things that are coming in 6.5. They might also tease some things that are coming with the next expansion. The only thing we know about the next expansion is that it is not coming this year. And we know that Astrologian and Dragoon are expected to get a rework that was, in Yoshi P's words I believe, too big for a major patch. Originally, Astrologian and Dragoon were slated to be reworked in a major patch in Endwalker, but then this was postponed. The only thing we know about these reworks is that the quality of life change to Dragoon, where jump doesn't actually have the camera follow your character to the enemy anymore, that quality of life change was actually part of the 7.0 rework. Which means that we know that jump is going to be existing in 7.0. Like, that we know that much. We know that jump is going to be working like that. We don't know if it's going to be an ability, but we know that it's going to work the way that it does. But yeah, there is a possibility that they're going to show off next expansion stuff. It would be the right time to do it. All we know is that it's not coming, like, the next expansion is not coming this year. Cal's announcement. Dragoons will jump. Could you imagine the incredible tease if they have like an expansion teaser, and in the teaser they show off some of the abilities of Dragoon and Astrologian, and they only show Astrologian playing cards, and they only show Dragoon performing jumps and Stardiver or something like that. Like, they only show actions that we know that they probably would keep. Could you imagine? That would be really funny. Let's see who answered. Coco said I'm too sleepy. Orion said I'm up for it, but could sit out. Riddle says the same. And Milo says the same. How about... All GCDs are now jumps. Your 1, 2, 3 combo is jump, spine, shadow dive, and dragon fire dive. The Dragoon update will change everything. I'm going to say, if they changed Dragoon to actually have a greater focus on jumping, I think that would be like a net win. Yeah, I think that would be a good thing for Dragoon if they, like... Yes, Dragoon has a focus on jumping, but it feels like half of your jumps with Spine Shadow Dive and Dragonfire Dive are sort of just like, they're about as iconic for the Dragoon job as, I don't know, like Upheaval for Warrior. Nightflyer says YouTube somehow unsubscribed me from your channel. That is really weird. Well, welcome back. Nightflyer says you finally built a good interior in the house. I didn't actually build very much of it, but I had friends to help. Let's take a little quick run around the house, right? We'll take the quick one. Here's the entrance. I made most of the stuff in this room. This room, my friend Aria made. The little Japanese theme. It's like a little themed classroom. I have not forgotten you, Johan. This is the arts and crafts room. And over here we have the chemistry and magical alchemy room. We even have like a little shower in case you get some icky stuff on you. And over here we have the nursery or whatever you call it, if you don't feel well. And over here we have a little classroom. This is where the pre-stream happens. Yeah, classroom with seats for 6. And then downstairs, Sib isn't finished with this. Most of the upstairs Aria made actually. But we have this stage with a working green screen ish. Yeah, it's not finished. There's something weird over there, for example. And then we also have this room. Thank you, Kasaya. Johan says, I'm pretty new to Final Fantasy XIV. The bars to the right of your spells, etc. Are they shortcuts to jobs? Yes. You just click on them and switch job. The way that I make them is if you make a gear set, you can actually, and this is really unintuitive, you click, left click, and you drag. And you just drag an icon out of the text. And you can actually do this with a lot of things. Like, I could go here and say, I want an achievement button. Or I want a player search, but I don't know why you would want that, but you can have that. And you can do that with a lot of text buttons. You can just drag them onto your bars. But yeah, it's for all of the jobs. And then also a marker. And thank you, Nightflyer. It is, you hold left click. You hold left click and drag, and then you can do it. Just hold left click. And for the player name colors, display name settings, you can do this, then you can get like specific role colors. And if you go to this one, you can like on the different ones, you can click on this one itself, and you can choose the color. I don't do that. I just have it as the default. But yeah, the role icons and stuff is really new. Right. Wait. I'm like, wait, do we actually have a balanced team? What's the second best gear to best in slot? The best in slot is Savage gear combined with Tombstone gear upgraded with materials dropped from Savage rating. The second best in slot is the Tombstone gear without the upgrades. The third best in slot is crafted gear. Like normal raid gear. But technically if you overmilled stuff, 5 materia in each piece, then crafted gear is superior. Halatali hard. I can't even remember how this dungeon goes. I feel like I will remember the bosses when I see them. we're pulling a lot. Remember for your own sake, Milo, that you don't actually have the godlike option of just using raw intuition. But apparently the mobs are made of tinfoil in this dungeon. Wow. I was like, yeah, no Tantara. Oh, when I said also when I said a balanced team, I was more thinking of, do we actually have a tank and 2 DPS aside from me? Because the game, like, if you have a pre-made party, the game will let you go in with whatever you like. Yes, apparently we don't get Tantara this time. We've had weeks on end where we always get Tantara Deepcroft hard on this particular roulette. That's why it's surprising. Does anyone remember what the mechanic of this boss is? Ow. Oh yeah, Mammoth Activator. Ah! Laser spam! Nightflyer. Well, the thing is that the way that this works for the most part is that as long as you don't talk about it in game, then there's no like, and also there's also the part that if it doesn't give you like an actual like play-based advantage, no one really cares or minds, including the development team as far as I know. But you know, you can never be completely sure, so it's better to just don't say it in game, because then there is not a record of you literally admitting to it in the in-game chat log. Just for your own sake. But if you use the color settings that we just went over in the character config, maybe you can do it without a mod. It's up to you. Oh, a bear! Anyone ordered a bear? Whose bear is this? How about these bears? Anyone wanna claim the bears? Oh, for some reason I thought that was another mob. I was like, why are we not pulling him? Oh yeah, this one is also weird. If I remember correctly, you're supposed to use the shadow orbs to blind yourself intentionally at some point, so that you can't get hit by that? I think it's that. An attackable eye. Anyone that has ever played a Zelda game would know what to do with that. Alright, Nightflyer. Thank you for checking in. I hope you have a good night. What's with these rooms? You get 3 mobs. Take it or leave it. You get 2 mobs. One of them is a healer. I wonder if they actually will cast heals. Bloodstain. That's Circle of Scorn. It didn't even look like a bloodstain. Yeah, I was just thinking the same, Milo. 1 mob next? The mob used home gang. Now that... Imagine if mobs in level 90 dungeons used invulns themselves. Just randomly. Do you think that would have an impact on the chain-pulling nature of dungeon groups? I wonder if it would. Oh, cutscene. Also, that is... I don't think I remember this specific boss music. Interesting. Very interesting. Huh. Well, that was very easy. I was supposed to kill them in a certain order. What? Nice. I don't know if we are. But I can see why we want to focus him first. Well then. cancel the mechanic by killing the boss. No, I don't even have the song. That's nice. It's a really weird dungeon, but it's very it's very A Realm Reborn. Like, the first boss had a gimmick where you had to use an item and then run under the mammoth. The second boss had you use an item to get a debuff that normally doesn't do what it says it does, to counter a gimmick. Exactly, Cal. Exactly. Figure out the gimmick or die. That is actually really funny. I don't think it was you that said that, but I actually saw a comment earlier today that talked about how this person didn't really like A Realm Reborn or Heavensward Alliance raids compared to Stormblood, specifically the Evilise ones, because the A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, especially the Heavensward Alliance raids, have this figure out the gimmick or die kind of style to it. Technically, the Crystal Tower series also has that. The thing is that usually the boss will be dead before you not understanding the gimmick causes it to flip around and kill you. Okasani's back. Voidark enters the chat with aggressive knockbacks. Dunscaith, first boss, the pull-in hits twice, but there's no indicator for doing that. Is it Voidark that is the one where you have to get the zombie debuff or you die? I think that's Voidark. And is I can't remember if it's Dunscaith or which one it is, where there is the... Is it this Weeping City of Ma? Where there is the jongleur? You know, the jester guy? Which one is he in? The one where you have to flip the dots on the ground between water or fire, depending on something. And if you don't get it, or someone doesn't get it, and flips them wrong, you might just wipe the entire raid. Oh, Jungler guy is in Dunscaith. Well, that raid is stacked, isn't it? That is true, he's also in Amdapor. He's also difficult in Amdapor. Right, how about we do leveling, and then we can all meet up together for trial roulette. For those that want to, of course. Diablo's Hollow Glare mechanic. There's also some really fun mechanics like I think actually the Hydra in World of Darkness actually has the Fear Itself ability. I'm pretty sure it has that, it just typically never gets to it. Which is a donut AoE with no indicator, so you're just supposed to know that you're supposed to run under the boss and face your fear. Hey, Lighter! Right. I have set it to limited. But yeah, it was just funny that Cal came with that specific argument. The figure out the gimmick or die, like, specifically set like that. Oh, Nelva and Shade just came out. I see. So the thing that limited leveling roulette does, and it says when you mouse over it, is basically that you are guaranteed to get a dungeon within 8 levels below the lowest level in your group. So we would get like... I'm pretty sure we can't get Aurum Vale. Gilano says, the most figure out the gimmick or die dungeon is Amdapor normal. I saw a lot of clears at Diabolos Gate. Like, I'm thinking Lost City of Amdapor. Right? In this case. Yeah, the gate one is brutal. Like, that is one where you genuinely will wipe if you don't understand it. Aurum Vale is 47, yeah. How did tanking go in your Hell's Lit? Your tank healer combo. Well, that's good, Hoshi. If you didn't wipe, then that's perfectly fine. If you did wipe, then you still did it. That's good. It might actually be better if I don't know how confident Shade is in their ability to heal, but it might be better to practice tanking with a healer that you know, where you know that they aren't like necessarily going to save you from any mistake that you make. Because then you also know that there is a bigger chance that whatever you did was the cause of you doing well, right? If you have a healer keeping you alive that you know can keep like anything alive, like you don't even need to use cooldowns, then it might be difficult to gauge whether you did well or not. I don't know if Shade is good, like a master healer, or need more experience. I don't know, but it was more to say that earlier Shade said that it was a great opportunity to practice tanking with me healing you because I'm good at it. It might be better to have Shade heal you because they might be less experienced with healing, so that you both learn from doing it. Like, you both get better at it, and you know that it isn't like, it's not necessarily only your fault if things go wrong, right? Because that is the scary part about going, like, grouping with a really good healer, is that if you wipe, then it's probably not the healer's fault. It might be. They might also take the blame anyway, and I probably would. But it means that you might not feel as bad about making a mistake if you know that your group is like, as much of your group as possible is at your level, right? Yeah, I know that I know that I was thinking we do leveling roulette and then we can all pair up again. I hope that is all right with everyone. Because unfortunately, I wish I could actually drag everyone into leveling roulette, but I can't. I cannot. I hope that is okay. Now, it took a while for me to actually click the Q button, so I'm going to do a new ready check. Oh, the reason why we're doing it this way, Gilano, is because I'm assuming that Nelva and Shade, so Hoshi and Sharo, wants to go together. Of course, Sharo, I will wait for you to. In fact, you will probably finish faster given how much time I take to get anywhere. But yeah, the exact reason is that I feel like I would like Milo and Ryan to stick in the group, because they both have, they have jobs to level. And both Sharo and Nelva has that too, or Sharo and Hoshi. And I'm pretty sure that Sharo and Hoshi wants to go together. So it's a little bit of a difficult solution to like just make everyone happy until we get into roulette, into the 8-man roulettes. But I will wait for you, Sharo and Hoshi. I'll wait for you. You could split in theory, yeah. It was more case of, I assume you would rather stick together. Guy's character conundrum. That was my assumption, at least. Oh boy. A pollen cluster stands in our way. Astrologian's toolkit is really awkward in this level range, I feel. It's like you have essential dignity, because basically all of your cooldowns other than that are related to making your benefics better. You know, the buttons you're not using. Preferably not using, at least. Ads! I want to test something. Alright, fair enough. I thought it would be funny if it worked. Could you imagine? You just cancel that mechanic by sleeping the ads? That would be funny. And interesting. And a gimmick, to say the least. And the reason is that the whole reason you kill the Hornets is because if they reach the boss, when it does the circle AoE in the middle of the room, for each target it manages to hit with the circle AoE, it gets a damage up, I believe. I think it also counts players. But it absolutely counts the Hornets. The Hornets do not do anything else. So if you're not scared of those damage up stacks, then you could literally ignore them, and it would do nothing. Like, it would change nothing. Hey, Ymir! What have you missed? Well, we did a few roulettes. I don't think anything like super Is the dragon coming down? Yeah. I'm just stalling your buffs out. Don't worry about it. I'm just stalling some buffs. Yeah, we did some roulettes. I don't think anything special happened. I don't think. Yes, this is. I don't think I've ever seen someone actually kill those Hornets. Well, we killed the Hornets. We didn't manage to kill all of them, but we actually were killing them just now. We got Etherfont and Fell Court of Troya and Halatali hard for the 5, 6, 7, 8. And then Somal. But yeah, you could essentially ignore the Hornets. The interesting thing is that because the mechanic is so minor, it is very easy to miss them. And as Esther says, I don't think I've ever seen someone actually kill them. If a boss mechanic doesn't actually do anything that looks like something, then it's not unusual for players to just go, well, the mechanic doesn't do anything. Like, if you're not paying attention to what the boss is doing, then what you see the Hornets do is basically, well, it summons Hornets, the Hornets run up to the boss, and then they die, having done nothing. Like, that's basically what it looks like, right? That is basically what it looks like if you're not, like, paying attention to the boss. It's just the Hornets go up to the boss and then they die. And if the fight doesn't drag out too much, then the boss won't get enough buff stacks for it to matter. I just like... So the thing is that, for the most part, I enjoy doing the boss mechanics correctly for the sake of doing the boss mechanic. Not whether it needs to be done or not. And yeah, also true, Airedale, they reworked this boss. This used to be a lot more confusing. For those that aren't sure what we're talking about, before the rework of this boss, the orange slimes were stack markers, as it is now, but they had the orange spread marker crystal. And the blue slimes were spread markers, but they had the blue symbol. Now, the thing is that the blue symbol typically means spread anyway in some capacity, but the orange ones normally also mean spread. So, that often led to some awkward situations. But yeah, my point was that I enjoy doing boss mechanics correctly just for the sake of doing them correctly. That also means that I don't wipe as much to underestimating a boss. And yes, I did remember to restrict leveling roulette. Every time I queue for it these days, I have like an image of Coco being set because I messed it up that one time. So I try very hard to not forget. But yeah, I remembered it. Don't you worry. The reason we are here is because Orion as Rita is level 58 or 56 or something like that. And also you do also always remind me, Emir, which is good. Yeah, it's like, the way I see it is like, the reason we're doing boss content, the reason we're doing dungeons is to have fun, right? And the reason we're here is to have fun. And going into a dungeon in this way is like, imagine going to like a theme park, right? And you go into like one of the rides, and like, you know, like one of those like spooky mansion kinds of rides, for example, where you have like maybe a gun to shoot at the ghosts or whatever. But then you just ignore that entire aspect. Just you don't want to shoot at the ghosts, which kind of takes away from the fun, right? Especially for the other people on the ride, if they're some of your friends. You, the guy not shooting at the ghosts, is the guy who isn't doing the boss mechanic correctly, just because you don't have to. Like that is of course an excessive example, but that is sort of what I'm thinking of. That isn't to say that you aren't allowed to do that, but that is the reason why I do the boss mechanics sometimes, even if you don't have to. Like, a really good example is Stigmascape at level 90. The final boss summons ads every now and then. The ads will self-destruct after a while. This self-destruct gives you vulnerability stacks if you are if you actually take the hit, like you actually take damage from the hit. Now, sages and scholars especially can very, very easily block it if they want to. And the boss itself isn't actually capable of doing enough damage for the vulnerability stacks to become dangerous, assuming that your group, like, in general, do the fight somewhat correctly, like without taking too many vulnerability stacks. You are never in danger. So, players that optimize and speedrun the dungeon will avoid attacking the ads entirely. You just ignore them. Why attack them? You don't have to kill them. You can just ignore the mechanic. I will only attack the ads if other players in my group are attacking them. Because if someone is attacking the ads, then there's very little benefit to ignoring them. But it's also a case of, there are other people on this theme park ride. How do they want to do it? If they don't want to do the ads, then we don't do the ads. If they want to do the ads, then we do the ads. Like, it's that easy. But that's how I look at it. Hey Sean, how are you doing? Cal says, I always try to stick to mechanics, but Cotter's Cry tests me. Yeah, the ads that you can skip there, I skip those too. I feel like that is almost like, it has become like an aspect of doing it. Oh yeah, me, who else is here? It's a new Praetorium. Yeah, that. Well, it's actually, it worked like that before Praetorium got reworked. Yeah, that is how I look at doing boss mechanics. Is that like, if we're doing like a savage fight, unsynced, the mechanics are still dangerous enough that you can't like mess around. The thing is that often you take a different approach to the mechanics, like having to approach the mechanic in a different way, like with Kafka, where you can beat the boss with less than 8 players because you can nullify his mechanic where he sets you to 1 HP and prevents you from healing. for a while, because you can make big enough barriers with Sage and Scholar that it doesn't actually matter. You can just use that health pool instead. John says, I've been using mouse over macros. Mouse over macros, right. Recently I fixed my GCD ones to go back to normal so I don't lose out on time. To use mouse over macros for your OGCDs. I do not use mouse over macros at all. The reason being that macros are really weird in Final Fantasy XIV. So generally I do not recommend using macros for anything that doesn't require it or doesn't give you a massive quality of life to do it. The reason is spell queuing. So spell queuing is what makes it so that I can press Benefic here and then I wait until the very last, like I can actually wait until like over half a second in advance and I'll just press one time and it'll come out on time. If this is a macro, it wouldn't work like that. So the way that macros work, you might have seen macros that look like this, is because when you click a macro, it will... So on frame 0, you click the macro, right? On frame 1, it will play this line. On frame 2, it plays this line. On frame 3, it plays this line, and so on and so forth. As there is a maximum of 15 lines in a macro, and you want to have the icon line, and you don't want it to spam arrows, like if you don't have that line, it'll do, like, it will, let me just, it'll look, oh wow, I have the double protection. It'll look like this, which is not great. So you want to have the mirror off. Did I... is it because it's in the wrong order? Or am I doing something wrong here? Is it the order? It might actually be the order. Interesting. It is the order. Pew! Right. I'm back here. Hello. So, what this means is if I'm pressing the button normally, I have over half a second of leeway on pressing a button. If it's a macro, then the leeway is this. So this is 13 frames of leeway. So if you're playing on 30 FPS, you probably aren't, but let's say you were, then this would be almost half a second. Almost half a second. If you're playing on 60 FPS, this would be almost a quarter of a second, which is less than half of this regular spell queue. If you're playing on 120, like I am, then this is like around a tenth of a second of leeway. Like, you need to press that button extremely accurately, otherwise it doesn't work. And normally that isn't a problem, but the reason why that isn't a big problem with abilities on some jobs is because abilities have like some leeway of their own. Like, for example, you wouldn't put a macro for upheaval, but technically upheaval could be used anywhere after heavy swing as long as main comes out on time, right? So like, it doesn't matter whether it comes out there or if I use infuriate right here, it's the same. So they could be macros, no problem. That is why, for example, that that is why, for example, dragoons use dragon sight macros, because because the quality of life, specifically of not having to switch target to dragon sight and then back to the enemy, is much more valuable than the fact that you have to mash to get it out on time. But with weapon skills and spells that you're going to be using a lot, possibly a lot, it's a lot worse. because you don't want those to come out a frame late. And there's also the part that if you're playing healer and you need to heal someone, it's probably going to be going down like if you need to heal with a spell, it's probably going to be going down like this. Like, you have 2.5 seconds to make that target change, and when you queue up the heal, you have 2.5 seconds to switch back to your target. So you don't need to have that massive time save of the OGCD. The single frame delay that might happen because of the janky spell queuing of macros is likely to lose you more value over the course of a fight than the macro is going to help you. I would say the same applies for OGCDs, and the reason why it applies for OGCDs on healers, and only really healers, a little tiny bit with Summoner, but Summoner doesn't really have any reason to use a macro, and maybe for Rekindle, but still. And actually the specific thing with macro is Rekindle, and there you're spamming instant cast, so it doesn't count. You could use a macro there. Is because as your spells have a 1.5 second cast time, and abilities have an animation lock of half a second, and then some, based on your latency, you have around 0.4 seconds of leeway. 0.4 seconds. And depending on your frame, like on your FPS, that is not that many frames. So if the macro is costing you time, it can quickly add up. That is the reason. That is the reason why I don't recommend macroing things on healers. Simply because the leeway that OGSDs normally have is a lot smaller on healers. Game says prank an Astrologian by changing their draw action to a macro that draws then undraws. You know, the good news on that is that undraw itself is an ability, so you would actually need to have like a wait command on that for that to work, but it could actually mess with the Astrologian. But yeah, that is the reason why I don't really use macros. The only macros that I use is on Ninja. I use a Shukuchi macro that does this. Places me exactly on top of the person that I'm targeting, because the quality of life there is that I wouldn't be able to ever target it that precisely with my eye. I used to use a Nascent Flash one, I don't anymore. I stopped using that in Endwalker when Bloodwedding became a thing. And then I use Dragon Sight. I use a Dragon Sight macro. Basically all of my other macros that entail abilities of some sort are either made to teach someone, to help someone, or they're discontinued. These macros feature in a video, specifically. I also use like Guardian macros for PvP. These also featured in a video. This one I made for Pokeshack a long time ago, I think. Yeah. Sean says, I'm so used to the macroing the OGCD, to macroing the OGCDs, that I don't know how I would be able to perform without them. Should I focus target the boss? As I said, spell, OGCD, spell, OGCD, spell, OGCD, spell, OGCD, spell, OGCD, spell. Like, you have like the entirety of the cast time of your spell to find your target for your OGCD. Now, switching back, you don't have as much time, but I typically switch back by pressing tab. So like, it's a matter of finding a way to switch back. You could use a focus target macro. Like you focus target, and then you have a button to target your focus target. You could do that. That is a way to do it. Yeah, the difficult part is switching back to your main target. And yeah, I do actually have a great googly moogly macro. Let me see if I can find that one. I haven't used that in a while. Right. We're doing trials. Mewells, do you want to come along for trial roulette? Since we have a spot, we actually have 2 spots. We'll just hang, that's alright. Did I miss anyone? The thing is, Sean, I want to be clear that if it works for you, then it's fine. I'm just pointing out some of the weaknesses because, like, if you're using mouse over macros because you think you have to, or you have been told by someone that they're superior, I'm just pointing out that they're not. Like, it's the same as some players are clickers, right? Some players play exclusively by pressing their buttons with their mouse. That isn't optimal either, but it's viable. Like, you can do that. You can do that. Some jobs are nearly impossible to do that with. And my advice for clickers is try to incorporate keybinds in your playstyle. Just try. It doesn't have to be all at once. Just keybind a few things, like your 1-2-3 combo, like free up those fingers, or free up those clicks and use your other hand for that. That gives your mouse a lot more freedom to be anywhere else than that. And then gradually introduce GCDs, right? Just gradually introduce stuff. It doesn't have to be all at once, but the reason why clicking is not good has nothing to do with, oh, you can't click your buttons fast enough. It has nothing to do with that. It isn't that. The problem is that it's really, really, really hard to be looking at what's happening up here, or over here, or over here, or over here, or here, on these health bars, if you're a healer, for example, if you're down here, making sure that your mouse is actually pointing at your attack button. Or you need to find draw and play and divination, right? Like, if you, like, let's assume that your eyes are tracking your mouse because in some capacity it's probably within your vision at all times. If your mouse is down here, it's not here where it's supposed to be. It needs to be here. Like, your vision needs to be here and here. Like, this big part of the screen where stuff is happening is where you're supposed to be looking, not here. You're only supposed to be glancing down here to check your cooldowns and stuff like that, if even that. Like, my advice for players that have trouble with tracking a huge amount of cooldowns is just track 3 of them. Like, I don't need to know what the cooldown on divination is, but I do need to know what the cooldown on draw is. That is a lot more important. So, like, there's a lot of ways to go about it, but it's the same deal. It's the same idea. You don't have to go away from macros just because I said so. I'm just saying that it might not be perfect. You might be able to become better without macros than you can with macros. That is basically what I'm suggesting. You might be able to get better, but you don't have to. And you can do everything in the game with macros if you prefer to do that. But now, I hope you feel equipped to make that decision now that I've told you about some of the weaknesses of macros and how you can go by without them. GCD macros. The thing is that if you came from a different MMO, World of Warcraft especially, like I did, you might feel compelled to use mouse over macros for everything. Why wouldn't you? Right? Why wouldn't you do that? It's just easier. The problem is that in World of Warcraft, macros work the same way as proper buttons. But in Final Fantasy XIV, macros are basically made bad intentionally. Like, they're literally designed in this weird, janky way. Like, they're made to be bad. So yeah, like if you used to play healer in World of Warcraft, you're almost certain to be like, oh well, I'll just use mouse over macros like I normally do. And then it just doesn't work as well. Because the game set you up to fail from the very beginning. I never actually got around to setting up mouse over macros in Final Fantasy XIV because I always find it so tedious. So I didn't get to that point. Like it wasn't annoying me enough to do that. Oh. Wait, how did you get hit? The landslide wasn't even pointing at you. What? Asian says, I'm currently trying to think of ways to improve my janky red mage opener. What is your red mage opener? What level are you? Red mage is also like an interesting job because it's once you get the basics, it's not super hard to like pick it up and try it, but it's actually one of the hardest jobs to master because it has so many weird things to optimize around. Uh-oh. The Mountain Buster got Aerodil! On your feet! Nice. Yeah, Asian, that I can see how that would be wrong. So let me see. Let me just catch up on everything else. Sean says it's cool. Red Mage is cool for a lot of content like Bolger or Deep Dungeons. That is true. Gayman says, I finally tried tanking Extreme a while back, and having a Shirk macro is so good. Yeah, Shirk macros are great. The only reason that I don't use a shirk macro is literally because of my thing with just refusing to use macros. That's basically the reason. It's just like I've reached the point where I'm almost just choosing not to use macros, just to not have them. But yeah, a shirk macro is really nice. I have considered setting one up. And that is true, Sean. You're not supposed, like, you're supposed to use the fire and the stone in place of jolt whenever you can. Paul says, are you watching other people do dailies instead of getting myself in gear and queuing? Thank you for watching, Paul. I hope you enjoy. Hazian said, I'm level 90. I'm currently doing the Thunder 5 seconds before pull. Fine. Then I cast the Thunder again. You should use the arrow there. And then you do Flesh. You can do that. You can do that. And then you do Jolt the Fire. That is, Jolt or the Fire into another the Thunder. And then Embolden Magnification where the GCD clips. Why does it do that? It shouldn't clip. That shouldn't clip. You have 3 seconds. And then melee combo. Contra 6, the Holy, Engagement, and blah 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 blah. Right, so my advice, and this would point to, I have a Red Mage guide, a level 90 Red Mage guide, a level 51 to 90 Red Mage guide, and more importantly, I have a short showcasing an opener for Red Mage. Your ping is a problem you can't do anything about, of course. But my advice is, first, so if you're pre-casting the Thunder, you can keep doing that. The follow-up the Thunder with dual cast should be replaced with the arrow. That should be done. Now, after that, you double weave. If we say that you can double weave, for the sake of example, you don't have to double weave this, mind. I'm assuming this is more for casual content, Hazian. If it's for Savage, there's of course going to be problems with a tincture if I'm going to advise you on single weaving this. But my advice would be, actually, let me actually find the opener that I have. Like, I'm just, I have an opener that I've taught. Let me just find the picture. There it is. It is for Savage Extreme. Okay, so what you should be doing is, so you're precasting the Thunder, then you do the arrow, and then you double weave Swift cast and acceleration. The reason why you do that is because it actually does not consume both. Watch this. I have both of them. Acceleration is eaten first, and then Swift cast is eaten. So it's no problem. You can have both, and it's fine. So you double weave those, and then you Thunder twice. The reason you Thunder twice is simply because if you do Thunder and then Arrow, then you will have equal amounts of white and black mana, and you don't want that. So you Thunder twice to make sure that your mana is unbalanced. The reason why I'm saying that you double weave it is because this spot between the two of the Thunders is a perfect time to use your tincture. So if you're going to use a tincture, it goes here. I'm assuming you can see my mouse. It goes here. But if you're not using a tincture, you can perfectly easily move acceleration over here. You just shove that over here and it's fine. But if you're using a tincture, you need this spot because tinctures take around the same time as a double weave to resolve for some reason. So you need a double weave there for tincture. Then after the second Thunder, you do Embolden and Magnification. And now the key thing is, as you note, there is no core here. So you're supposed to be running into melee range during these two instant Thunders, right? You're supposed to be running into melee range while doing this. And then you do melee combo. And the reason why Flesh and Contra 6 come out here is because The reason you're using Embolden at this specific timing is because most raid buffs come out, assuming your party is all following their optimal openers, comes out around 7 seconds into a fight. So 2.5 seconds, 5, 7.5 seconds. Around 7 seconds anyway. Embolden, Magnification, which means that Flesh will benefit from raid buffs, Contra 6 will benefit from raid buffs, Core Engagement will all benefit from raid buffs. And if you're really lucky, you might also get this Flesh to benefit from raid buffs. Probably won't, because you probably don't have a Summoner, as well as a Red Mage. But you might. But that is the reason. Now, the reason why I'm saying raid buffs and not Embolden is because for some reason, Embolden buffs your magic damage. And Contra 6 and Flesh are physical damage, allegedly. So they don't actually benefit from Embolden. So you're delaying those two to fit them in raid buffs. Also, did you just get this staff, Matthew? Did you just get this? It looks like you just got it. It doesn't have any materia in it. Is that right? Did you just get this? Well, nice. That means that, well, Matthew, I believe you already had P12S on farm, right? But yeah, nice. Matthew got the Biz weapon. Awesome. But yeah, the opener for Red Mage is really weird. If you're not in a raid group that is like perfectly optimizing their openers, you don't have to do this. If you're doing casual content, you don't have to do this. In fact, the tank is probably pulling before you get to cast this. So like, there's a lot of things to consider, but the general idea is that, yeah, you want to like make your mana unbalanced and plan your raid buff with everyone else. And I have a short that showcases just that opener, and I have a guide that explains all of the details in the level 90 section, if you need it. It says, today I got pet and hugged by a cat girl in a dungeon after I had a bad time with mechanics. Aw. Yeah, that's true, Hasian. My best advice there is... That's like when you have latency problems, then the best you can do is like either try to like freestyle it a bit, and if you're not sure how to go about it, like maybe you're not sure what takes priority, we can talk in like in the classroom, for example, on Discord. Is Nelva not ready? Yeah, you could try that. Like, for example, when you say Dragoon, if you follow the order that, like, the classic Dragoon opener orders that you would, then you will, but you can't double weave, then you're going to be like single weaving things really high priority that you don't have to do that. Like, if you can only single weave, then you probably won't, like, then I would imagine, like, the best you can do is, like, single weave stuff, like, and just off the top of my head, like, True Thrust, Lance Charge, Disembowel, Dragon Sight, Chaos Thrust, Battle Litany, Wheeling Thrust, Geiskagul, Fang and Claw, Jump, and then you would actually postpone Mirage Dive as long as you can, because it does not have a cooldown. You don't have any motivation to prioritize it yet. Use all of your other cooldowns first. And then use it just before it runs out, right? Like, it becomes really, like, you can get really, really creative to, like, make it into single weaves, but Dragoon is absolutely one of the jobs where I would say it's probably going to be really hard if you can't double weave. It doesn't matter whether it's I can't double weave because I'm not fast enough, or I can't double weave because of latency limitations. Like, it doesn't matter. If you can't do it, it's going to be really, really, really hard to play the job. Nah, Paul also got Circus Tower. Well, as you know, why is it that it is always the Crystal Tower? Yeah, Stardiver is not surprising that it would clip if you can't double weave, because Stardiver takes like an eternity to resolve on its own. It's like 1.5 seconds almost. Well, we also were kind of like setting ourselves up to fail, because I believe Orion, as Rita Ymir here, was like level 50 something. So it's like it's like stepping in a banana peel and being surprised that you slipped. Oh, weird. Now, it's going to be very exciting whether I get frozen. But yeah, that would be my advice, Hazian. If you're having latency problems, so you can't follow a conventional opener, for example, then like try and discuss what you can do with other players. That is part of the value in having like the Discord community server, is that you have people there that you could ask. They might not know best, those that answer you, but they might be able to like give you some perspective. Like, maybe they have an idea. Me getting frozen in the middle of my card burst. Very, very sad. Right. So here's a tip for this boss. If you didn't know, the Ancient Flare actually deals way more damage if you're not standing in the water. So you're supposed to be getting players frozen and then melting them and then standing in the puddle. Isn't that something? Imi also mentioned that added to the story about the about the mentor from earlier that was really nice when you were having a bad time in a dungeon, that they were a perfect legend and they were actually a good mentor. That is really nice. It's like what's it, that 4chan post that sometimes makes the rounds on the internet about the guy meeting actual Chad. It's Kisaraki. Oh, there you are. You could have joined with us if you wanted to. Well, that is funny. Look at that. We have secret player 8. It is always funny when when we randomly land in groups together like this. That's always really fun. But yeah, for future reference, Paul, you are allowed. That is, it is totally allowed to like show up at my character's house, and join for stuff. So if you were about to do roulettes yourself, you could have joined us. That is really funny, Lemon. Now, unfortunately, you can't hear me. Now, everyone, make sure to let Lemon know if you think I'm winning or not. Are you winning, son? I'm inside your walls. Imi is actually Bruno. Where are my attack targets at? My divination is running out, dragon. Stop stalling. Stop stalling. Get down here. Thank you. Finally. Matthew says, yeah, you're not having to play level 50 white mage. So there's that. Technically winning. Could be worse. I don't know. Well, level 50 white mage is really, really boring, isn't it? You have benediction. Look at that adorable Lalafell. Well, for example, Hazian, Astrologian is not that bad. You have most of your card stuff. You're just missing Minor Arcana. But you're missing all of your healing stuff. Meanwhile, White Mage doesn't have lilies. Like, at level 50, White Mage doesn't actually have a job gauge. No job gauge. No job gauges? Did we all manage to miss the dude with our minimize orbs? This is getting a little chaotic. No Azais, no Asylum, no Lilies, no Benison. True. No Blood Lily. And I think the reason why we keep getting Crystal Tower stuff on these streams is because, well, we bring, you know, we bring up to 8 people from the stream. And it's very likely that someone is bringing a level sub 60. And it's even more likely that a person brings a character that doesn't have the Shadow of Ma series, and if you don't have that, then you're probably getting Crystal Tower. Like it's that easy, and like that's how quickly it goes. That we only have Crystal Tower. Exactly, Hazian. It takes one person not having, like, a large selection. That's also why a lot of the because of my video on the Crystal Tower and Alliance Raid, I have gotten a lot of suggestions on what you could possibly do about it. And I feel like the best suggestion that I've heard to resolve this is to cut Crystal Tower out of the Alliance Raid Roulette and make a Crystal Tower series Roulette instead. Like with its own separate rewards, just like the MSQ Roulette. And the reason why you cannot pair it with the MSQ Roulette is simply because, due to the sheer size difference of the MSQ Roulette groups and the Alliance Raid groups, it is going to be really, really, really almost outright impossible for the Roulette to, like, match together 24 players when it can easily find, you know, 5 groups, 6 groups for MSQ Roulette instead. So why would it? So it's better to make a separate Roulette for that. And as long as the rewards are satisfactory, people will do them. Like, it doesn't even matter, people will still do them. And I think that would be the best solution. Now, the thing is that the reason why that is the best solution, in my opinion, is more so because a lot of players are doing Crystal Tower and getting Crystal Tower for other reasons than the rewards. Like, what I mean by that is that even if the reward structure of Alliance Raid Roulettes were boosted so that there was better incentive for players to, like, not scale down their gear and stuff like that, and not intentionally dodging the higher level stuff. The problem isn't actually that, and the problem is much more so that It takes one, as Hasian said. It takes one to ruin it for the entire squad. Right? It just takes one person who doesn't have anything else. So it wouldn't help to have things like one solution I have seen a lot is to make it so that if you're trying to queue for Alliance Raid Roulette as level 60, you have to have the Shadow of Ma raid unlocked. And if you're queuing as level 70, you have to have the Evilise raid unlocked, and so on and so forth. Because it just takes one level 50, and then we're back to square one. Doesn't change a thing. Not a thing. So that's why my suggestion would be to make it a separate roulette. I think that would be the best solution. Also, just in the party chat, just do this. Tilano's talking about, I feel like the new markers for Ancient Quag are not helping people to learn not to learn to stop not stacking stacks. To be fair, to be fair on that one, one of the most common problems in like the Nidhogg trial is that it's one of the few, like, it is still very early, like one of the first few times people really have to deal with stack markers. So people will run to Narnia if they are targeted with it for some reason. With Achmon. And then they die. Right. There's also the part, which is, I think, the one that people were actually talking about also, is stacking stack markers on top of each other isn't very exciting. It's a little silly. But I can see why they let that happen in like an alliance raid like Crystal Tower. Yumia says, the only reason I'm going to start PvP is just because of the glam. I think that is what brings a lot of players into PvP. The thing is that I think the problem is that your average Final Fantasy XIV player isn't really like a PvP guy or girl. So they could put the coolest glamours in the game in PvP, and some players would not give it a chance. But the purpose behind putting cool stuff in PvP... the purpose behind putting cool stuff in PvP stuff is to motivate people to give it a chance. This is the same reason why I saw it as a good thing when a lot of casual players were really, well, some casual players were really offended that the axolotl mount is from Savage Raiding. Because the reason that they were offended is because they looked at it and went, oh, well, then they'll never get it. Right? They looked at it in a similar fashion to how a lot of players will look at like a really cool ranked PvP glamour weapon or something and go, well, I'm never going to be good enough to get that. So I'm just not going to have that. I can't get that ever. Because it is hard. Right? It is really hard. But the fact that players are looking at loot like that and being angry about it is specifically because they go, I can't do Savage Raid. Some of them are probably doing this because they go, I don't know how to do Savage Raid. right? Like, they haven't tried. And that's the same with PvP. Some players never tried PvP because it's scary, but by going, oh, well, you get this cool emote if you do PvP. Oh, there's this cute minion. How about this mount? There's this special portrait thing that you get if you do PvP. Like, all these small details, all these small things that add up. It's not to, like, force people to do PvP, but it's specifically there to motivate players to give it a chance. Like, just give it a chance, right? Also, by the way, Paul, I'm sorry that I didn't. It just occurred to me now that I could have waited and asked if you wanted to join. I'm sorry about that. The Elegant Code of Casting. I can't even remember what that looks like. I remember that some of the tank and melee DPS stuff looks like it makes you almost look like Genji from Overwatch. Like, just a full, like, biosuit. All right, Paul. It just occurred to me that I could have asked. Could have done that. Oh, I actually have an OGCD AoE heal. Nice. Imagine. Level 60. That monk could use some gear. What? That was an interesting way to get tossed. Ah. As I was casting the Benefic, I see the Living Dead. Sorry about that, Hoshi. It's Pepsi Man. Oof. Oh, make sure you're not standing next to each other when tanking that boss. Seems he cleaves with his tank switch mechanic. Was that plus plus? Oh. And a plus and a minus. Nice. Run before someone opens the treasure. Escape. It's the hidden dancer. May I present? Yeah, what I was talking about is that the reason to put like rewards in content is try to motivate players to do it, of course. In MMOs, for some reason, in MMOs, players are rarely motivated to do content for the sake of doing it. This is also why, for example, on the last solo challenge stream, when we were doing Aurum Vale, there was a new player, Mario Nide, who asked, "What are we doing?" I specifically outlined, "We are soloing Aurum Vale because we can. There's no reason to do it aside from that, because there genuinely isn't any reason to do it." Because there's no special reward for doing it aside from the fun of doing it. So, players probably wouldn't do any PvP if there was no rewards to be had. Players would not be doing, like, I think very, very few players would do Savage raiding if there was no rewards, right? Like, imagine if you could just go to a vendor and just buy the best gear in the game, like these Savage raid drops for like 1,000 gil each, and you had the best gear in the game. Would you do Savage raiding? Maybe once or twice, just to see what it's like, just for the fun. But I think most players would just be like, I'll just use some different I'll just do some different content, right? Well, Emir, was it not entertaining to watch me run the locksmith in circles for like 15 minutes as a solo scholar? Was that not entertaining? I hope that was entertaining. Oh, you weren't there. Sorry. You could watch the VOD? You would tell me if it was entertaining. And yeah, as Aradil Gilano very well put it, come to Eureka, we have elemental armor. Yeah, the motivation players have to do content is almost always, in MMOs especially, directly tied to the rewards. Like, directly tied to the rewards. Why would I do this content if there's no reward? Like, that was actually a problem that happened with the where are they? There they are. With the Criterion dungeon, where you get like a few rewards, like a handful of things that aren't that fancy, but there's no gear reward. So once you have those rewards, you have no motivation to do it again. So that's why I think it's a good thing, a healthy thing for specific types of content when you see, like, players go, so annoying that they added this reward from this content that I don't like or don't want to do. Specifically because it means that they're looking at the reward and going, I really want that, and then they see what they have to do it and go, but I don't want that. And some of them might get inspired to try the content, give the content another chance, or give the content a chance in the first place. Like, remember, a significant amount of players probably look at Savage raiding and they don't go, I can't do that, or I tried, I know I can't. They go, I think I can't, or I don't want to try. Like, It's not even, it's like a child being offered food and going, I don't want this. And mom goes, but you didn't even taste it. And the child goes, I don't want this. Like, that's where the problem lies. Like, you need to try it. And one of the best ways to make people give it a chance, if you like put a carrot on a stick on the other end of the room and go, well, you get this, which is a good thing. I'm pretty sure a lot more people have started doing PvP since the series rewards have been added. The problem is that the amount of players doing PvP stuff, like, it's like, I'm pretty sure it's like a graph like this, and then the instant that people are like the average player starts to have gotten all of the rewards, right, it just goes down to like just past 0 on the graph. Like, somehow there's a negative number of people doing PvP suddenly. It's really weird. But that's why I think it's a good thing when they add like content rewards that I go, oh, I can't get that. Because for me, I like the way I look at the axolotl bound is I probably won't invest the time to get it. I won't do that. Matthew did, and that's good. It's really cute. But the way I look at it is, I will get it eventually. The thing is, I think it's a lot more fun to do, like, content unsynced, because that way you're allowed to get more creative with it, so to speak. You're not as put in a box as you are when it's new. That's why I found it, that's why I find it really funny to break encounters, like trying to do them solo. Like, for instance, on the solo stream recently, where somehow I managed to beat the Black Eft as just a scholar by like a hair. Somehow. Because I think that's really funny that you can do that. It's much more entertaining to be able to beat something like that by using the mechanics of the game in a creative way. Like how you can beat Kefka by using barriers and all those things. And Cal says, I'm currently trying extreme content for that specific reason. There you go. Great. The fact that adding some carrot on a stick behind difficult content can motivate players to try it, or try to like challenge it, is a good thing. And because content becomes easier with time and new expansions, it means that like something like the axolotl mount will eventually become more accessible for other players. Like, eventually it will. And similarly, like Cal says, out of this specific trial, there's a weapon they want. When that trial was new, it was a lot harder. It wasn't, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the two extreme trials at the start of Endwalker were allegedly undertuned. They weren't too difficult. I didn't do them, but I was told that they were rather easy, which is a good thing, you know, introductory hard content to get the new players in. But now they're easier because you can overwhelm them with gear, and that's exactly a perfect example of how this works. Are the queue times for frontlines that long? I feel like it's always like under 5 minutes. At least for me. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to do Savage or not wanting to do PvP. But there's also a big difference between wanting to do content for the sake of getting the rewards and not trying just because you want the rewards. Like, a really, really good example of this is so in PvP Series 1, specifically Series, well, the first season, the first series after the rework, it was shockingly common, like scarily common, to see players AFK or intentionally try to make their team lose in crystalline conflict, especially in casual matches. Now, you might have a hard time figuring out why they would do that, but the reason is that crystalline conflict is structured in such a way that a win gives you 900 series XP. 900, okay? So 900. A loss gives you 700. An even match where both sides are trying their hardest to win can take like 5 minutes. And then you might lose anyway, right? After 5 minutes of effort. If you don't try, like if you just let the enemy win, they can actually win sometimes in less than 2 minutes. Maybe even 1.5 minutes or less than that. And losing 3 times quickly is better series XP per hour than trying your best and winning once in 5 minutes, right? Now, the reason why it doesn't work is if you ever experience a player go AFK in a PvP match, what you do is after the match you open this menu, this menu, and then you report here, right here, and explain that they were AFKing. You just write immediately on this one and write a report on their name, because that is not allowed. That is a very, very like that goes under unsportsmanlike behavior, and that is really strict. You can actually get punished for throwing fireworks at other players' corpses in crystalline conflict, because that's unsportsmanlike. And yes, they actually used that as an example when they presented it, because people got really toxic in crystalline conflict. And this also applies for frontline, by the way. If you see people intentionally standing AFK at spawn for minutes, bam, report that. We don't want that here. So the reason why intentionally losing matches quickly in PvP is a bad idea is because while it is efficient, you can get banned. So don't do that, alright? I've taught you why people do it, and also taught you why you shouldn't start doing it. And yes, exactly, Sharo. Spamming good game, spamming text messages in general for no reason is considered harassment as well. Nice job, spam. Thank you. Thank you, spam. Hello, spam. Good match, spam. Sorry, spam. Even, like, all of them. Don't spam. Like, if you're doing PvP, try your best. That's it. If you're not willing to try, there's the door. Just go. And the reason why people AFKing in frontline, or rather in crystalline conflict like this, became a thing was actually because there was, based on what I could understand, is because there were players looking at this kind of reward, this kind of reward, this kind of reward, this kind of reward, and this kind of reward. And, let me see if I still have it in my list, this kind of reward, which was the rank 25 one, and said, I want this, but I don't want this, right? So they looked at this and said, nice, I want that. Looked at this and went, but I don't want that. And then instead of going, well, I have to do this to get this, they just went, well, I can just not play. I could just not play, and I'll get the XP for AFKing, and it'll be fine, right? I just have to do that for like, what, 200 matches? And I'll get my reward, and it'll be fine, right? And yeah, that was the logic, that was the reasoning. If you don't actually enjoy the content, then don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't. Just don't, Mao, right? Just leave it alone. Even if you want the axolotl or the creepy Dark Knight looking armor, if you're not willing to put in the time, then you shouldn't bother. It's not worth it. It's not worth your not enjoyment. Pretty much. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk or something. And that is a good point, Jacob. A lot of players are like the only reason why I say it might be a bad idea to buy a story skip is if you find the game, like you might find the jump in difficulty by doing level 80 content suddenly from level whatever you were might be too overwhelming. But if you're genuinely not enjoying the story, then but you are enjoying the combat and the gameplay, then maybe there is something to it, right? Like, that's why I don't see a problem in people buying a skip. It's just for their own sake, it might be too big of a difficulty jump to buy the skip. But ultimately what matters is doing what is fun for you. As Ymir said, they bought a machinist level skip and don't regret it. Because they were having a boring time leveling machinist from the very start, but have a lot more fun at level 90. Right? Or level 80 plus. Personally, I didn't buy a single level skip. I've just been leveling every single job because I love leveling. Like, I actually like leveling. In World of Warcraft, I used to be that guy that had 10 alts because I loved leveling. So I look at the level skips and the story skips as, why would you pay to lose content? That is really, really, really silly. But if you don't enjoy the content, then you're not losing anything. Like, it's like skipping food that you don't like. Anyway, we got through the roulettes. Wait, just a moment. Ryan says sometimes they use a good match at the end of a loss. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. I usually say good match, regardless of how the match went. I will usually always say good match, because that is good sportsmanship. Even if the opponent can't hear it, still saying good match is not a bad thing. Unfortunately, if someone has been spamming good match the entire match, then it might come off as sarcastic. But yeah, so we managed to do the roulettes that was on the table, as we always do. And I have probably lost out on like 3 million causality. All that money into the starlight sky it goes. Whew, into the earthly star it just goes. Whew, gone with the wind. But that's fine. It's my fault. I should have spent some before the stream, but I didn't. And yeah, if you enjoyed the stream and you would like to have some help with figuring out when streams like these are happening in the future, there is a Discord community server that you can join, where you will find the wonderful people, many of the wonderful people you've seen on stream here today. And there is a room dedicated to a weekly schedule, so you can always see what's coming up soon. And there is an announcement channel where you can see whenever there's a new stream planned, a new video planned, or whatever it is. And then there's rooms for all sorts of stuff. Recently, I don't think there is one today, but I haven't actually checked. But there is a chance that you will sometimes see people clip stuff during the streams and post the clips in the Discord for good fun. So if you miss like a stream and there's something incredibly funny that happens in the stream, then sometimes you will be able to catch a clip from a clip on the Discord. And that's always fun. And yeah, if you enjoyed exactly as if said, did you know Final Fantasy XIV isn't online? It isn't Final Fantasy XIV online. Now that is a good one. There's also the what was it? Actually, I don't know. I don't actually know that much about Final Fantasy XIV. Where Ted Anima here, Me Who Else, made a little animation for it. It was really nice. But yeah, look at this man. Wow. Nice. Thank you for that. But yeah, if you enjoyed the stream, also consider leaving a like on the stream. I would really appreciate it. That will also make YouTube go, oh, it's a good stream. And yeah, that is everything that I think I have on the menu. Tomorrow and the day after that, we are going to be having some Astrologian guides coming out. And on Friday, in contrast to last week's What Makes a Job Difficult, we are having a talk about what makes a job easy. Which is, of course, a very interesting flip-flop of the similar question. But that is also an interesting discussion, I feel. So I hope you will enjoy that premiere with me. And then Saturday, we are having a Small Kai's side quest. Where we will possibly start to unlock some more flying zones. And maybe do some... We might actually do some more daily roulettes. Because, well, that is always fun to do on the side quests. But yeah, we will do that, and that is of course on Alpha Light, in contrast to Louis Soir Chaos. And I really appreciate you all coming out tonight. Coming out and hanging out. Thank you so much. And that means that all I have left to say is good night, or a good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I hope to see you all very, very soon. Good night.